Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2018 show, presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Verizon IndyCar Series, and SVRA. First thing, I got to give an update on Dave Brown. I know most of you know Dave. I went out to see him last week. He's still in the hospital. He's in a rehab center now. He's had trouble talking. Now he can talk somewhat, and you can understand him if you concentrate. He's struggled with walking, and his arms aren't moving all that well, but he can move them some now. And he says he feels pretty good, but can't do much of anything. It's really a shame. But he says he's keeping plugging on, so hopefully in the next few weeks or a month he'll be out and about. But he's having a struggle. And I want to mention tonight that our server, Megan, yesterday had the 4th anniversary of her 21st birthday. How many people watched the Toronto race? How was it for a street race? How was it? Awful. Okay, it was awful. Okay, I don't know what. There was only a couple of them, for Pete's sake. Do you like the winner? No. Well, then make up your mind. No. Jeez Louise. Since the loss of Phoenix, it seems right as of this minute, the replacement is going to be Laguna Seca. Don't quite understand why, but they didn't ask me, so I guess there's nothing I can do about it. I understand that Fontana is interested in looking, and I don't understand why, because they didn't draw there either. In Sonoma, in this 5 or 6 or 7 years I was there, they didn't draw anybody there either. I don't understand it, but I guess it is what it is, and they're in better shape than they know more than I do, so I guess I'll just be quiet and send Mr. Miles my thoughts on email, which I do quite frequently, and see what happens. Probably nothing. I'd like to see him go back to Richmond and Kentucky. I think it'd be great. Anybody have a dental problem? Probably the worst visit you have with a doctor is a dentist. I suggest very highly that you try the Indy Dental Group. Dr. Jack Miller. Am I too loud, Steve? Steve, you want me to hold it down a little bit?
I'm talking to her.
I know that. Everybody heard it. If you need a dental, I highly recommend, and so does Sharon, Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis. They got great practice. To get an appointment, call 317-846-6125. And if you're as smart with a computer as I am and have problems like I do, I highly recommend Jack at Computer Overdrive. They're at the northeast corner of Lyndhurst and Crawfordsville. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. He can take care of you. Call him up. Tell him what your problem is. He'll tell you what he can do. His number is 317-328-0766. And if you want to know about drones, and which now big thing is racing drones, go in the back part and see Mark, and he'll tell you all about it. It's a great thing. The Vintage Indy Registry, driving Indy into the present, past into the present, is dedicated to the history and preservation of Indy cars from 1911 to 1997. The Vintage Indy Registry will be presenting open wheel icons at the IndyCar weekend at Gateway Motorsports Park, August 24th, 25th. Come see and hear a full field of vintage Indy cars on track each day, including the 68 STP Turbine and the Radical 72 Samsonite Parnelli. Visit VintageIndyRegistry.com and find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You get your tickets at GatewayMSP.com. And I also want to mention that I do frequently, that you want to take a good trip and have a good tour, you got to talk to Bill and Stephanie Throckmorton. They've got the Grant King limousine, give you a ride, first class ride. You visit their shop, the museum, and several other shops. Take a look at a nice tour, and they bring you back from where you started. If you want to find out about it, call 317-820-3959 or call Bill's cell at 317-371-0290. My first guest is a gentleman that I have had on a couple of times. He's a very interesting man, in my opinion. He's a Indy 500 veteran. He drove, I think, in 70-some races. Qualified for the 500, I believe, 4 times. But 5 times, I'm sorry. I just wondered if you were paying attention. And upon retiring, he and his brother have done some very phenomenal things, and you're going to find out about it because I'm going to ask him. Please welcome His name is Daniel William, but he's all known to everybody as Spike Gelhausen.
Thank you. Is this thing on? Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you very much. That was nice.
So how
Now, you
did-
can't cut me short on starts at the
I'm
500 because
sorry.
they were hard enough to make the way they were. So.
Yeah. I see you at the Speedway every May, but do you go to any other races at all?
Not really, not champ car races. I go to a lot of midget races.
Oh, do you?
And I go to see a lot of sprint car races because I really like that best. That's most entertaining to me.
And that's where you started.
Yeah, started in midgets.
Yeah, your
the
brother
dirt.
told me that we didn't have a lot at the house, but you always had race cars.
Yeah, my dad was a little possessed. So, yeah, he had plenty of race cars. And
How come Carl didn't drive?
when he was very young, we drove quarter midgets together. I was 5, he was 5 years older, and he was 10. And he drove for about 4 years, and then when he turned about 15, his eyes started going bad. And, in that day, people drove with glasses, but it wasn't a highly recommended thing, and so he just kind of backed away from it. And he kind of just stayed in the pits and worked the pits and worked the pit board and that kind of thing.
What was your favorite racing? Midget sprints? I assume sprint cars are your favorite.
No, I tell you, I love midgets more than anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only problem with midgets is you couldn't make a living at midgets too much. But they were, as far as fun goes, it was the most fun race car there is.
Well, obviously things have changed because there are guys now that are running midgets and making a living at it.
Oh, yeah, they make very good at it now. But, the purse money, if you get in the top tier deals, they're getting paid by the owners and the purse money, and it's a pretty good gig nowadays.
Now, you retired in what, 88?
88.
Yeah.
Well, I always like to say, I got a quote from Bobby Grimm, I never really retired. It's just car owners quit calling. And so,
Really?
So,
I don't
yeah.
understand that. You had a pretty good driving career.
Well, but I got into the era of when you had to raise funds to really get a good ride. You had to have a sponsor of some sort, and I couldn't seem to get enough dollars together to get a good enough team to get where I wanted to go. So it came to a point where reward wasn't worth risk, and so I walked away.
Now, when you walked away, you and your brother hooked up, I assume, because you've been the vice president of one of your companies since 1986 and the president of another one. So you didn't waste any time finding something to do.
Well, I always got to stay busy. We always wanted to get together. My brother at that time was working for GM, Delco Remy up at Anderson, and he wanted to get away from them, and I was looking to do something. So we teamed up and put together a company.
And what was the first thing? Now, the company you had, it's not selling hot dogs or hamburgers. You're into the scientific world. What was your first product?
Our first product was a natural fire retardant that treats cotton or any wood fiber, will prevent it from catching fire, prevent it from supporting flame. And then we expanded from that into thermal paste type of products that absorb heat. And we're getting into packaging and different things. We developed a product to fight wildfires, which we're 2,000 miles away from any wildfire, but we developed a product to do that type of technology.
Do you send any of it to California? Do they
yes,
use
we
it?
do. Yeah, we run some in California, run most of it in northwest Canada.
Really?
And because we're not quite what you call politically connected in California to do what it takes. So,
You mean politics is what keeps the fires going?
oh yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. I never thought of that. You also developed a product that if you had a radiation spill, you had a product to clean it up.
Well, it's not really a spill. It's for their weapon grade. It's for the waste,
Okay.
the nuclear radiated waste that they developing all the atomic weapons that we have today. Well, they did all that back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, and at that time didn't have any way to take care of their waste, their liquid waste. Couldn't solidify it so they could bury it, and we came up with a product where we can solidify all the liquid waste and then now they can transport it so they can get it to a burial site. And that was a big product for us.
Now, Carl
well with that.
said that your initial one was good, I think he said for like 10,000 years.
Yes.
And the government says that's not good enough. We want
Right.
20,000. And you guys figured that one out.
Yeah.
Well, I let him know that I appreciate it, but the 20,000 I won't be here to see, so I'll take your word that it'll last that long.
No, that's what we got a salesman. Kind of came up with a funny line. He was talking to a scientist, this nuclear scientist was talking about the radiation, the half-life, and all that of radiation, and Dennis was telling him, with Dennis Campbell, and he's our salesman, and he was telling him that we've already done tests where we show that our product will be here for 20,000 years. And the guy says, well, that's theoretical, that's lab. He says, what I need is real life, testing. And Dennis says, well, I tell you what, you get yourself a lawn chair and a six-pack, and in 20,000 years, you come back and tell me if it's still liquid or not. So, I mean, it's just some crazy things that they come up with. But we have a product that we've had Russia has even taken our product, and they tested it, and they've tested us up to as much as 100,000 years that we can solidify a liquid, and it'll still be a liquid, still be a solid 100,000 years from today. So it's a pretty good product. It does what it's supposed to do, and it came out well.
How many people do you have working for you, or do you and Carl sit down and figure this out?
We're a very small company. We started with 4 of us, and we basically are running the company with 4 of us today. And we run about 30 different salespeople and things, but actual company is about 4 of us.
Well, who develops all this stuff? You and Carl?
No, we've had people bring us technology that people have developed over the years and then couldn't find a market for it. And actually, we're better at finding niche markets than they are. And so we get the products, we define the niche markets and so forth. And we always attribute the racing side of the game of allowing us to do that, because in racing, when we were coming up in racing development, if you didn't think outside of the box, you didn't get an advantage. And that's what we do with this technology. We take the technology, we find out what it can do, we think outside of the box, and we go after a market and create it.
Well, again, I was talking to him and Carl in May, and I said, what have you done lately? He said, well, let me tell you.
Yeah, sure.
He said, there has been a problem. Ion lithium batteries, when they fail, they smoke like a son of a buck. And they've lost, I think, a couple planes have crashed because the pilots couldn't see.
Right.
Nothing.
UPS has lost 3 planes because of
So he said, I think he told me three Fortune 500 companies spent 10 years trying to solve the problem.
Right.
And it came to you. And
Yeah.
within several months, you figured out the problem. They were trying to get rid of the oxygen, and they said, hell, when these things burn, they create the oxygen.
Right.
That's what you got to stop, and you guys did it.
Yeah, we and
That's
again,
amazing.
we went back on our racing aspect and looked at what people do when they used to weld magnesium, because if you know magnesium, once it catches on fire, it develops its own oxygen, and you can't put it out, or it's very hard to put out. And this is basically down that same road. So instead of going after trying to put something out, starving it of oxygen, we basically went after the fact that we drew away the heat. We took the heat away from it. So we kept lithium-ion batteries. If you know anything about that, I mean, they ship those by the thousands. And the problem is, one cell goes off and it goes into thermal runaway, and it creates enough heat that it creates another cell beside it to go off in the thermal runaway, and all of a sudden you might have 1,000 of them going off. And they'll reach as high as 1,500 degrees for a short period of time and put out a tremendous amount of smoke and so forth. But anyhow, we went after the idea of creating a package, and we did create a package, and and when I say a package, we created a cardboard box that we can put in 30-some lithium-ion cells at 100% state of charge, and we can put one of them in the thermal runaway, and it'll reach as high as 1,500 degrees. And inside this, and this is a cardboard box, and this cardboard box will survive and not allow another battery to go into thermal runaway. And we've been marketing that now for about 6 months, and it's doing real well. We're with a company out of Chicago, called Label Master. They're doing our marketing for us, and we're with a company out of Tennessee that does the manufacturing. So it's starting to really take off real well. And if you ever hear of a box called a Bexion, that's our box.
That's amazing. And to think you used to drive race cars.
Yeah.
And
That was a lot more fun, though, let me tell you, driving a race car.
Yeah, but you know, most drivers who retire, they're sitting up as a spotter, or they're a mentor for a driver and so forth. You and your brother started a business and have been very successful. And I
Well-
think that's kind of neat.
It's different.
Yeah, no kidding. Do you ever wish to say, geez, look at these Indy cars. I'd like to get in one of these. I wish we had these when I was driving.
I do wish they had these when I was driving. I started in the flat bottom era, which, you know, the cars had very little downforce. And I mean, to give you an idea, a Speedway car in 1976, we ran about 800-pound springs in the front and 600 pounds in the rear. Well, the last car I ever drove at the Speedway was in '88, and that car had 3,400-pound springs in the front and 3,200-pound springs in the rear to keep it off the ground. So that's how much downforce. And I don't know what they're creating today as far as poundage and all that, but it's got to be a great feeling to be able to go down the corner and that thing just stick like glue, like it does.
Yeah, but you know, over the years, drivers that I've talked to and others as well have said the drivers would rather have less downforce so they can drive the car, and now they are.
Now they are. It seems to be this year. It seems to be they've gone back to that a little bit more, taking away some of the ground effects. I guess something like 1,500 pounds they took away. So that's good, and I like to see them get back to it. I never did like the idea of ground effects to begin with. It's
Yeah, it kind of makes the car stick. But you know, the interesting thing, I'm sure you heard this, it was at Iowa. There was at Iowa that had 955 passes.
yeah.
Jeez,
Right.
they don't do that in 7 races
No.
collectively. Do you have any kids?
I got one girl.
Oh, she doesn't drive.
No, she doesn't drive. I got
She
two.
didn't?
I got a grandson that's going to start a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, he's only 2.5, but
Oh, wow.
he doesn't know he's going to start yet. But he's going to start in about 2 years.
Is his mother all good with that idea?
Oh yeah, she's fine. Yeah,
I see.
yeah. Because I put her in the quarter midget when she was 5, but it didn't last real long.
Well, that's probably saved you some money, too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What do you see now with USAC? It seems to me, and I had Kevin Miller here a couple weeks ago, that they seem to be picking up a little bit. The car counts are picking up. Certainly this race over here, and I'm sure you're going to go watch the midget race here.
Yeah, right.
More than a $70,000 purse, $15,000 to win, the most for a midget race ever. You know, the car counts that I see are coming up pretty good.
Well, it seems to be. I've been working with Bill Bowie's son, Chris Bowie, in a midget, and we've been running. But we don't run USAC, but because he doesn't have enough seat time. But he's probably going to we'll probably be trying to bring a car over to the Speedway for that race, just because I think everybody that's got a midget's going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think I heard they got over 70 entries already.
oh, I'm sure.
So they were planning on starting at 4 o'clock on Thursday. Now they're going to start at 6:30 in the morning. They have so many cars.
Really?
No, I made that up. And they just came out with the prices. I think the tickets go on sale tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the ticket prices, seems to me, are a little high, but I don't know.
Really?
$55 for a
Oof. For a midget race, that's
Thursday,
pretty good.
for
huh?
Thursday night. But they say when Kevin was here, he said he and Doug went out Monday night before the announcement on Tuesday, and they sat in turn 3, and they said, those are the best seats in the house. So they
Yeah.
moved the grandstand around to the other side.
Mike
So-
said the Vista seats were 23 outside.
Oh, that's because Mike's cheap.
I don't know why Mike didn't stay, but that's what he told us tonight.
Well, good.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, it is. I don't know.
One night, 23 one night.
That's if you stand around and get run over by somebody.
55 is down inside on the seats.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you want to do. You want to stand?
Get dirty.
Get
Okay.
dirty.
That's all right for 25
That's what a
bucks, yeah.
midget race is about. Get dirty, I
That's
think.
right.
So, but yeah, I mean, USAC's starting to come back pretty good, and you know, I mean, they've been the best sprint car midget organization that there is. I mean, you know, they were down there for a couple of years, but I think they've gotten a lot stronger here lately.
Well, one thing they're not doing real well is rebuilding their building. Every time I look at it, there's more things missing.
I don't know what they're doing.
I said, what's the holdup? Well, we have asbestos permits. I said, don't you usually get that ahead of time?
Yeah.
Would seem to me, but I don't know. But I guess it's going to be good when they get going. What got your dad's interest in racing? Did he race as a kid and then decided he wanted to be an owner?
No, to be honest with you, he never did really tell me why he liked racing. He just liked it. I mean, he came from a very, very poor family, and they didn't have very much, and he happened to hit something when he was at a very young age and made pretty good dollars when he was in his early 20s, and liked racing. And he started racing, bought his first midget in '54, the year I was born. So,
You were predestined to be a driver.
well, pretty well. Pretty well. Me and my brother did a talk, I guess it's about almost a year ago, and we just sat down and we came up with a list. There's 51 different drivers that drove for my dad.
Really?
Yeah, and so over the years, and it was really interesting to do that. I mean, there are a lot of different people in different areas.
Did you drive for him the majority of your career, or did you?
I
jump
drove for
out?
my dad for 3 years.
That's it?
Yeah.
Out of all the years you ran, you only drove for him for 3 years?
3
You
years.
said enough of this. I'm going elsewhere.
No, well, he was. Well, I would have stayed with him as long as he ever wanted to race. And then, problem is, in '79 he had a stroke, and he had to retire. We shut down everything and sold his racing stuff, and we had to retire him at that.
So you went. Who all did you drive for?
Well, I drove for Pat Patrick. I drove for Bob Fletcher. I drove for Dick Simon. And that was Gus Huffman. Drove for the couple, I can't think of their names, out in California. Wizards. Drove for the Wizards. That was about it.
But that again was in a time where the team owners found the sponsors. You didn't have to bring your own money, did you?
Well, it started getting that way, and
Yeah.
that's what. I mean, when I was driving for Bob for Fletcher, it started out that I was paid to drive. I had a salary. I had a percentage of cut, and then in the end, the final year before he wanted me to come up. He said, "Want to know if I had any kind of sponsor money?" And I said, "No, I didn't." And he said, "Well, he had a driver that came to him and it had some dollars, and that's where he went." So
Huh.
at that point, that was when it started to change, and it had changed. It had started before that point. I mean, that was in '80 and '81, and it was the writing was on the wall at that point. And for some reason, I never could get out and get enough sponsor dollars to get where I wanted to get to. Never could put together the right package.
Well, I was talking to Al Unser Jr. a few years back, and he's before he retired, and he said the first time in my career ever I've been asked, "Can you bring money?" So I always had to drive.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
with a name like that, obviously you would get it. But he said they're asking me, and I don't know how to sell. I never had to.
Yeah, it's
So-
it's a difficult thing to go in. I mean, my dad, for whatever reason, I mean, he always told me, he says, "Look, if you just drive hard, you stand on the gas, you always have a ride." And he was right in that era that he raced in. If you always drove hard, and you could always get a ride. And then the sport changed, and it went that year, and it's a lot of it today is that way. I mean, it's still that way to a big point, and it all depends what it is. Yeah, when you get to a certain point, you get up to the top of it. Yeah, then you don't have to do that anymore. But I mean, today's world, you still hear where Scott Dixon has to get some money in, or he's not going to have a ride, or they all have to go out and hustle.
Well, the biggest one I can think of that did that is Zach Veach.
Yeah.
And that 1001 that he put together, and he's got a 3-year deal, and I hear it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, well, that's
But
great.
You go out and sell. You got to sell. I mean,
gotta
Matt
sell.
Brabham, you'd think with his name, could he get money? He's struggling with it.
Yeah.
So you got to
No,
go out
it's a tough thing. It's for you got to find the right person that just kind of you get along personally, and they happen to have enough connections or money to get you where you got to go.
And then the networking is big. The company's got to see something other than your name on a car going 230 miles an
Yeah.
hour you can't read.
That's right.
It's going too fast. What's next for you and your brother and your companies? You got anything new on the thing, or are you just working on getting the lithium boxes moving?
No, we're we don't have anything on the drawing board right now, and we're pretty well covered with the lithium-ion battery program and the lithium metal batteries, and trying to keep that perfected and staying on top of that, and with our other business that we have, the other things that we've got going. So we're not looking at anything new at this point. As a matter of fact, we're probably my brother's getting ready to retire, kind of slow down a little bit.
What?
And
Does that mean you got to put roller skates on?
yeah, I got to roll him out to pasture. And so I get to take over his duties, and he's going to go play for a while. He's got 2 girls that play golf, and so he gets to go watch golf.
Okay, so in a couple of years you'll be out with your grandson.
I hope. I hope. Yeah, we're going to see. We're going to take him out there and see.
Yeah, you never know. It's amazing what happens. A granddaughter of a friend of ours got into racing, and I think she's 11 or something like that. She's 7. She's racing quarter midgets
Yeah.
and loving it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
then they got to go over here when they had that big event,
Yeah, sure.
and they let them go out and run around the speedway. They said she went nuts. Oh, I got to be here. So,
Yeah, it's
what-
pretty interesting for you.
what is it about motorsports? I've been around for 65, almost 70 years. 60, and it's she wants. Why don't you quit? I love it. I love the sport. Now I'm not happy with the direction it's going with the street and road courses, but
Right.
I love racing. I just love it. I mean, I get to meet Carl and Eileen. So if I get a hangnail, she'll take care of it. She's a nurse.
Yeah.
I get to talk to Bill. He can help me with get back into racing. He'll help me do that. Not anytime soon. But what is it about the sport of racing that people just can't get rid of it?
It's the man in the machine. I mean, it's the ultimate quest of taking a piece of metal and fiberglass and bolting it all together and beating your next door neighbor or your buddy or whatever. And I think it's that competitiveness in people that really drive. I mean, I know that's what drives me. I just like to go out and compete, and I still like to be involved with it just to get that competitive edge. And it still makes me feel good. I think that's what most people like about it.
Do you like the Formula E and electric cars?
Oh, I don't know much about it.
I don't either.
I have never even watched one yet, so I can't really comment on it. I think it's going to be awful hard to watch a race car that makes no noise, and that's
Well, it makes a
well, yeah, it'd be like the turbine cars, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so I think that's going to struggle, but maybe not. I could be wrong.
I know the New York race had a pretty decent crowd, and each team has to have 2 cars for a driver.
Right. Yeah,
Now,
I
I
know
talked
that.
to 2 guys that I know from McLaren. They said that next year that won't happen. I said, why? So we got a battery that'll run the whole race.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, yeah. So now the race team's got 2 cars. Now they got to put 2 drivers together. Because what are they going to do with the other one? Somehow I can't see coming to the Speedway to watch a 500 and tell them, turn the PA down, it's too loud.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
That doesn't make sense to me. But oh,
Well, it'll be different. But things got to change. That's one thing about racing. You always got to change, and you just have to deal with the technology as it comes and goes on.
you know what intrigues me? You would think an engine they've got today, this day in the calendar, but they'll find something to put in it that'll make it more horsepower, more torque.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, what is it they find? And it's usually little things, and all of a sudden it'll jump 5 horsepower.
Well, sure. That's the interesting part of the racing factor. I mean, is to sit back and think, what can I do to take this 4-cylinder, in my day, the 4-cylinder off? What can we do to make this thing competitive? And we looked at that time. We did a lot of titanium work, and we worked with titanium cups and titanium wrist pins and titanium rods, and we had a titanium flywheel in the Offie, and we actually got that 4-cylinder Offie, we were turning that thing about 11.6, last time we were running it, and we could go around the speedway in that car and only lose about 400 RPM all the way around that place. And that thing was just coming off the corners like a rocket ship. But and that's what's neat about racing, or of that era, when you could take things and you could twist things and do something different to stay competitive.
Well, apparently that's what Honda and Chevrolet are doing, because they,
Yeah.
I mean, Honda this year is phenomenal. They won, Scott won. They finished first, third, and fourth. At Toronto, they're leading the points, and last year they couldn't get out of their own way almost.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how they keep fighting, and they tell me that I think in 2020 the horsepower is going to jump, and that 235 and 240 speedway is going to be every day.
Yeah, that's what I understand. But I don't know what they're going to do with the boost, what they're going to allow them, how much pressure or whatever they're going to allow them to run. And I think they're committed to the fact they want to get up and break the track record again. And
Well, Randy Bernard wanted to do that, but didn't happen.
yeah, right.
And,
But,
but the interesting thing also is the advancement in safety. I mean,
oh yeah,
these guys are safe, feel safe in the car. They say, do we worry about crashing? Of course, but do we feel can walk away or limp? Yes.
yeah. Well, the carbon fiber and all those safety factors that they brought into those cars and gotten the drivers back, their feet back away from the front of the tubs, and just the things that they've done. That safety cell they created is a phenomenal piece. And racing today is just really, so safe compared to the way it was back in the day.
In your day.
But it's just like everything else. It just changes along with the technology, and you have to. I mean, if you're going to run 230, 235, you got to be able to bang one off the fence and walk away. And I think like Scott Dixon's crash last year or 2 years ago, was phenomenal. That man walked out of there,
Yeah, you're not kidding.
and it really speaks highly for the technology.
And the time and effort and money that Tony's George spent
On the safety
on
wall.
that safety barrier.
Yeah.
And when they first put up, it was called a soft wall.
Right.
So they said, come out and look at it. So I said, all right. I looked around, and I said, so I ran into it. I said, this thing isn't soft at all. Jeez, I'm about to hurt myself. That wasn't a real good plan I had in mind. Oh, well, and it'll be interesting. I'm trying to get Jeff in here to talk about the windscreen they're working on. There's going to be some more tweaks before they test it again, which I think, in my opinion, is a better idea than that halo thing that Formula One's got.
Yeah, I don't care for the halo much. It just
It seems to me if something's coming at you, if it doesn't hit that little bar, it's going to hit you.
yeah, I don't think much of it, but I kind of like the safety screen. It looks pretty. I mean, if you're going to do something, I'm glad they're going that direction.
Yeah, because if something hits, it should supposed to bounce off it. So, but it can still come over the top. But at 235, maybe it will miss it.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come here. I know the first time I invited you, you said as long as it's after 6 o'clock, and your brother said, what the heck, 6 o'clock? I said, I don't know. That's what he said. Maybe he leaves the office at 6. I don't know.
So he doesn't know. He's up here in Indianapolis. I'm over in a plant over in Rushville. So
Oh, so you just
we're
talked
60 miles apart. We
so
we don't know
okay.
what the other's doing.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come here, and I was very impressed at what you two guys are doing and the stuff you've done after leaving the race car. It's amazing.
Oh, well, thank you.
In a direction that I bet there isn't anybody else retired from racing. It's in the direction that you guys went.
Well, like we said, we always like to go a different way. So
Well, that's a good idea.
we're doing that.
Well, that's great. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank
I
you,
hope to
Don.
talk to you again. Spike Gelhausen. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
I'll call you again down the road.
As my next guest approaches, I want to remind you that Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville is the place to go to find out why the best prices are in the country. Go to country at Sam Pierce Chevrolet. Take I-69 north to exit 234 and go east 1 mile, and you'll see him on the right. It's a great place. You'll also find when you deal with Sam why he's always at the top of customer satisfaction. You want to find out why race drivers like driving these high-speed Indy cars? Why don't you take a ride in the Indy Racing Experience? You can go online and then find the dates that you want to run, and in the promo box put JS1 and you get a 50% discount, or you can call Shonda Her number is 317-243-7171. And mention JS1 to get a discount and take a ride, and you'll say, wow. Is it time for insurance for your home, your car, or your commercial property? Do what I did. Not for the commercial property, but for my home and car. Talk to Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. Give them a call. Let them give you a quote. You might be surprised you get better coverage for less money. His number is 317-248-0070. That's VP Insurance in Speedway, 317-248-0070. And if you're into vintage cars, the upcoming event for the SVRA is July 26th to the 29th at the Portland International Raceway. If you're anywhere up in the Northeast, you got to go check it out. It's a great event, beautiful cars, and they're actually running and racing. And if you are into that, why not go to svra.com and subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. It is a top-of-the-line magazine, and you'll love it. It's got great stories, great pictures. It's a phenomenal, top-class magazine. So go to svra.com and subscribe. And if you're not a member of the IndyCar Nation, they give away over 5,000 experiences last year. Join now at the IndyCar.nation and get access to tons of VIP benefits, including this young man got to wave the flag for practice in, where was it? In Iowa? In Iowa, yeah, he was a flag man in Iowa. Didn't drop the flag and didn't fall off the stand. That's a pretty good deal. So just go to IndyCarNation.com and in the promo box put Don K, DONKAY 15 for a 15% discount on a champion or legend membership. And if you're going to Pocono, there's going to be over 300 cars, vintage celebration at Pocono, put on by the Classic Racing Times. It'll be at the track. They're going to be running on the 2.5-mile Tricky Triangle, and they have smaller cars, a smaller division. They'll be run on the 5th-mile front stretch oval and under the lights. That's the 17th, 18th, and 19th of August, Pocono Raceway. Now, my next guest is a young lady that I've had the privilege of knowing for a number of years. When I first met her, she was the PR director for Treadway Racing. And whenever I had a problem or a question, I'm sorry?
It's always hard to say.
Treadway Racing.
Yeah.
Treadway.
Yeah. Busted.
Freddie Treadway. And whenever I had a question or wanted a driver or something, she was always cooperative. She went from there. I think her next stop was IndyCar, and spent a number of years there doing everything at the track but driving. And she probably drove, but not race cars.
It wasn't race cars, it was pace cars.
That too. And from there, she started a business with her friend Gene, who is sitting here, Grand Solutions. They were very successful, and another company bought them up, LST Marketing. LST Marketing has gone bye-bye and been sold, and now she is the Vice President of Development for EEG, which I don't know what that is.
I know.
But it's an organization that the Indy Racing Experience guys bought, and they've got all kinds of things. We're going to find out what she's doing, but she's here tonight. Please welcome Ruthie Forbes.
Hello, everybody. Okay, I have to say one thing, and I'm going to laugh because we are owned by the Indy Experience guys. So Scott has always told me that the whole SJ1 code was like his super secret, private, ultra under-the-table code. That is crap. You just announced it to everybody.
He told me
like,
that.
That is not a super secret. He's totally busted. So wherever he is right now, he's busted.
He's the one who told me to say that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, I get that. I get that from the side. Just, okay, if it's a private thing, just, super secret code, no problem. No, it's not. How many have done it, by the way? That's awesome. Good crowd. That's great. Yeah, so a little bit about EEG and not egg. So all of you have seen us, you just don't know who we are, oddly enough. So EEG was actually formed by the Richard Petty Driving Experience a small eternity ago. So it's been in existence for a long time. And then recently, it was acquired by all of our friends at the Indy Racing Experience, Joe Kennedy, Jeff Sinden, and Scott Jasek, as well as a gentleman named David Zucker and the original Experiential Events president, Mark Daly. They all combined together and purchased it from Richard Petty Holdings recently, as in January recently, which is when I started, I think, in February. So that's sort of how it came about and how they all formed this partnership and own this particular company. And we do a lot for everybody, not just racing. We do a lot for other things, and it's everything from, You know, I've got a big, huge truck that I've constructed for the United States Olympic Committee on the road right now that's out doing social media tours, so we constructed it from the top down. How many people went to Mecum when it was here? Mecum?
The
Anybody
auction.
go to Mecum? Anybody do the
auction.
Dodge thrill rides? That's all us. We do all of Dodge SRT and all that kind of stuff. We do everything for Fiat Chrysler, so we do all their activation and all that kind of fun stuff. We're launching some stuff for Ram and for Alfa Romeo coming up shortly. We do a lot with automotive manufacturers, and it's everything from trucks and trailers on the road to we have an off-road experience in Las Vegas called 01 that we own. So if anybody ever wants to go out to Vegas and run around the desert like an idiot, I can totally hook you up on that. It'll sand in your teeth. And then we also do trucking, transportation, logistics. We transport a lot of specialized equipment. Like we do the flight simulators for Boeing. So anytime the Pentagon calls and says they need to go do some flight simulation, we haul all those over there, and then we hide in a closet because we're not actually allowed to go in, set everything up, let them do their thing, and then we pack it up and take it out. So, show car programs. We do show car programs both on the stock car side. Our headquarters are based in Charlotte. We also have an office in Detroit. We are also in Indianapolis. And then we are also in Chicago and Las Vegas. So I'm kind of all over the place in my existence. So
And one of your trusty employees was here last week, Jimmy Kite.
yes, he
And I didn't
was.
realize that. Talking afterwards, I said, "Well, who you work for?" He said, "Ruthie's my boss." I said, "You got to be kidding!" Jeez.
It's awesome because we are the same size. He's totally my height. I love that. Easy to persecute him.
Now I know over the years I've talked to Scott, and they've been chasing this Richard Petty thing for quite
Yeah.
a number of years.
Now, we are not the driving school.
Right.
They did not purchase the driving school, just the experiential side.
Yeah, they wanted the other stuff. And he told me when last I spoke with him that since they have taken over and you have taken over, your division has grown somewhat.
It's grown quite a bit, as a matter of fact. We also do, we do a number of odd things. Has anybody seen Logan Lucky?
Is what?
Logan Lucky, the movie Logan Lucky? So we shot all of the on-track footage for that. We've got the trucks and the camera trucks and the cars, and then as Jimmy pointed out, we're kind of an unknown company, but on average we have about 300 full-time staff. We do produce about 200 event days a year, and on average we have about 100 trucks on the road in any one given day. So lots of moving parts and pieces. We're usually white labeled, and by white labeled, what that means is you see us in everybody else's shirts. So I do a lot of work for IndyCar and some of the racetracks around the country, and so whenever I'm a racetrack, you'll see me in racetrack gear. So it's me, but you'll never know who I'm working for. I'm sly like that, sneaky.
What is it? Are you being sneaky? Is that part of what you
Heck
learned
yeah,
over
smoke
the years?
and mirrors. Come on, I work for everybody. I'm a friendly kind of a person.
Yeah, I'll say that.
Cheers.
That's water, by the way, for
I
you
know.
watching it.
Just in a strange, funny bottle.
What got you into motorsports in the first place?
Accident, purely accidental.
You had an accident.
Oh yeah. So I went to broadcast production school here in town, Butler University. Great broadcast production school. My whole family was kind of into the broadcast industry, and I graduated, and I hadn't even graduated yet. It was about 3 days before I was getting ready to graduate, and I got asked to do an interview for a radio network. And so, great, no problem. I'm into radio production, piece of cake. So I go and do the interview, and it happened to be Paul Page, and it happened to be the Kmart IndyCar radio network. And I'm from here. I grew up native Indianapolis, grew up here, hung out, all around town. I never went to the race. I was not a race fan. It was bizarre, but I just didn't grow up in it. So my first event was a small one. It was the Indianapolis 500. And Sally Larvick, who was one of our pit reporters, got sick. And so she handed me a microphone and said, "You have a target of 3 different drivers, and you need to go ask some questions and a few things." So she handed me a microphone, and I thought, okay, I can do this. So I marched out. And the first driver, I think the question I asked was, why are there wingy things on the car? That wasn't a very good response. I think the second driver I asked was something to the effect of, why do you wear the little suity, outfitty things? Yeah, that was a good one. And I think the last one was, why do you want to go fast? Yeah, that was a good one too. And I look back and laughed, and it was Mario Andretti was 1, Emerson Fittipaldi was 2, and Arie Luyendyk was 3. So I have to this day not lived any of that down. No.
I can't
no.
imagine why not.
No, but you pick it up really quickly, and it's a very exciting sport, and it's once you get in and understand the nuances, it's easy to become a fan. Once you know a little bit of the background, you can all attest to that because you've all been to events, and so what's fun for me is to see the business side of it in addition to the actual on-track side of it, and I've done the on-track side of it. I mean, I've run on the pace car program for IndyCar was loads of fun, having the pace car team like James Hinchcliffe and Charlie Kimball and Stretch and Martin Plowman. That was a riot and a half. I probably laughed more that year than I have in 1,000. But so it's also nice to see the business side of it, And you were all talking about racetracks earlier. So, just a poll: what racetracks would you like to see on the schedule? Kentucky. You heard somebody say Michigan. What else?
Richmond.
Richmond.
Chicago.
Okay. Jets in a Gymnasium. That was a good one. That one made me seasick trying to keep up with that one. What else? Any road courses? Any street circuits?
Well, they've got 9 of them now.
Oh, you want to go back to Cleveland?
No,
yeah, I loved Cleveland. Cleveland was cool
No.
because you could see the entire racetrack from the grandstands. That one was really cool. Yeah,
They've got 9 street and road courses. That's enough.
that's enough.
There was
You're not a street course. You're an oval guy, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. But I have to say, I liked this race in Toronto this weekend. It was pretty good.
That was a pretty good race. It was a very good race. How many people are going to Gateway? Yes. Who's taking the bus trip? Anybody taking my bus trip?
One.
All right. Yeah, you should go. The bus trip is awesome. It's so much
I
fun.
think it's sold out.
Gateway is
I
no, it's
believe.
not.
Oh, I thought it was. Somebody told me
I'm in
it was.
charge of it, so no, it's not. I'll tell you that right now. It is not, and you all need to go on the bus. Come on, where are my people? Take the bus with me.
So how do you sign up for the bus? In case,
You can just hop on, like, if you hop on the racetrack website, gatewaymsp.com, you can hop on, and there's a little note for the
There you
bus
go.
trip, and you can hop in. And actually, it's awesome. It parks right across the street over at IndyCar's offices and leaves from IndyCar's offices. And I will warn you, it's a long day because it's a one-day trip. It takes you over, and then it comes back an hour after the race is over and brings you back. So you're snoozing on the way back, or you're getting drunk, one or the other. It's it's one of those things. You
Or
can
a
bring
little
beer
of
on the
both.
bus, or both, or yeah, no, that's a great one. As a fun client, they have a great staff and they really understand the fan experience there, and they do a brilliant job of trying to make it the best possible experience for their fans. They do an unbelievable
and
job.
what does that show you? The effort they put into it, and there's others I can
Yeah.
attest that don't do anywhere near that, and they say, "Gee, I wonder why nobody's here." I got
Yeah.
a pretty good idea.
A lot of it is demographics in the area and what the area attracts, and a lot of it is track staffing, and a lot of it honestly depends on what they're up against. I love Phoenix, something awful. It's a great circuit, and they're great people, and the staff is wonderful. But being so close to the Cup race is it's hard for them. It's hard for them to turn the racetrack around and do what they need to do. And Goodyear's a little far away from the population center, Phoenix. So the draw is
come
just a
on.
little bit on the tricky side. Well, not everybody is you. Not everybody wants to be at the racetrack every day.
Sure you do.
We need more of you. Multiply. No, maybe not. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Ixnay. Take that back. Take that back.
Take that one back real quick. But in my opinion, two things hurt Phoenix. I think one is when they were running the Copper World Classic, it was huge. I mean, they packed
yeah.
the place.
For
Then
sure.
IndyCar and their some genius said, "We're going to change our date," and the whole thing went boom.
Yeah. And a
Then
lot of it.
NASCAR went there, and they couldn't run on a track that when IndyCar ran there before the 500, what your setup was there, you could take here.
Yeah.
But now they've changed the track because NASCAR couldn't run there. Now IndyCars can't run there.
The hard part too is it's all about discretionary income, and it's not just motorsports; it's all sports in general. Everybody's income is stretched a little bit thinner and a little bit leaner, and trying to figure out what you have. It's sometimes it's cheaper to go to the movies. That's the sad part, and it's happening with every single sport out there. Is the fight for the discretionary dollar and what you can afford, and the more events and the more things to do there are in the world, the thinner it gets to try to figure out what you have, what you can allocate your budget for. And the other position for motorsports too that we need to look at and pay a little bit of attention to is, how many 17, 18-year-olds do you know don't have driver's licenses? Yeah, there's a lot. They just don't really care about cars. They got their phone, they got Uber, and frankly, for most parents, it's cheaper to give your kid an Uber allowance rather than have to buy them a car and car insurance. So a lot of parents are turning towards Uber. So that's a little part of the problem is we're not so much of a car culture anymore than we used to be.
And schools don't have motor shop like they used to have, where you
No, they
could
do
work on
not.
your car. Now you can't work on your car. If you're not a computer genius, you're SOL.
No, but I will say one thing. I will say IUPUI still has their motorsports program, and I talked to Terry Talbert Hatch about 3 weeks ago, and she told me that they have a waiting list for their motorsports program. So
Yeah, they do
I mean,
good.
they've got it's packed, and they've got a lot going on with that program. And they finished. Did they finish second at SCCA last year at the runoffs?
I think so.
So yeah, it's an awesome little program. So it's still alive. It's just a case of, most schools are going away with it. Same thing with driving schools. Half the schools anymore don't have driving schools anymore.
Prior to his death, obviously, I had Buddy McAtee here. And Buddy said, mark my word, within 5 years, the events on the national networks will go away.
Oh yeah.
And he's pretty much right. It'll be on internet. Now, the other thing that I see, and I hear from a lot of people, is I can watch it on television. It's almost better than being there. You can see more,
Yeah,
and the
camera
picture
angles,
is
graphics.
spectacular. I mean, these new, whatever kind of televisions they are, the high definition has gone out of it. Oh my God, it's
I don't know. I'm still old school. You still want to sit in a seat and smell it and
Yeah,
hear it and
yeah.
pet it and
Yeah.
well, maybe not petting. That's probably not a wise move. But you know what I mean? It's it's one of those things where you there's so much you can see when you're there. And plus, the thing I love about IndyCar and frankly sports car racing is the same boat too is the amount of interactivity you can have. I mean, the fact that you can get into the paddocks and talk to the drivers and walk around and see everything. To me, I mean, I know TV's done a brilliant job of really expanding the coverage and providing unique angles that you frankly can't see from the stand. So there's some unique aspects to it, but I'm just still an old school. I want to go see everything and get up close to it.
And when you were at IndyCar on a race weekend, the only thing you probably didn't do was drive the pace car and wave the green flag.
True. We do the pace cars for the start of the beginning of the race, the parade laps.
Yeah,
That was about it.
but you didn't drive it. I said the only thing you didn't do is drive the pace car at the beginning of the race and wave the green flag.
Yeah, I drove the parade cars in front of it.
Really?
Yes.
That was you?
Okay, and the only reason why is what is up with this? I had an entire pace car group of guys, that are supposed to be responsible for driving all the parade cars for the start of the race. Anytime they would march down pit lane and open the car door and step in and realize it was a manual transmission, I got the emergency radio call. What is up with all these dudes that do not know how to drive a manual? Come on, people. That was embarrassing. Yeah, no. I was always the pinch hitter for any time there was a manual transmission. It was the girl. Leave it to the girl.
Yeah. And then you left IndyCar and you and Gene started a company called Grand Solutions.
Grand Solutions, yes.
And that grew very rapidly as
We
well.
did. We did. That was kind of cool. It was kind of funny. It was my last year at IndyCar was in 2010, I think. And it was when the market was down, actually. So who in their right minds would start a company when the market was down? But we kind of noticed that there was a lot of people in the industry that needed help. And because of what all I had done for a living, I knew where a lot of the bodies were buried. So I could help, you know what I mean? I knew how to, connect some I's, I always say connect I's and dot T's. That's the one thing I do constantly, connect I's and dot your T's. So backwards. But that was one of the things that we did, and it was funny. I was actually having a conversation with Larry Foyt about it. He and I were chatting one day in the paddock, and he was talking about sponsorship and sales and help and things like that. And he said, well, who do we go to? And my comment to that was, well, shoot, who do you go to? So I became the person you went to. So Gene and I started a company, Grand Solutions, in 2010. We started out just the two of us, a two-person office, and then by the time we left, how many were we? 10? 9. We were at 9, and then LST Marketing, which was formerly Andretti Sports Marketing, acquired us. So then we became partners in LST Marketing. And LST Marketing still exists. It's not gone. So they bought Roger Staubach's agency out in Dallas. So PPI Marketing became LST Dallas. And so the primary focus of that company is based in Dallas, but there is still in LST Indianapolis. Has anybody been to Grand Park in Westfield? So LST Indianapolis actually operates Grand Park. So all the bodies you see in there are LST Marketing. So, and there's a couple of other things they have going on their plate too. They're getting into esports and a few other things. So it still exists. It's just in a much different capacity, which is why I got recruited by the Scott, Jeff, and Joe equation to come and play with them on a daily basis. And there's nothing like having Jeff Sinden stare at you in your office and say, "What are you doing? What's going on? How's it going?"
That's all he's got to do.
Oh, yeah. He'll be in the middle of a project and he'll just march in and sit down. It's unbelievable. My daily life is never dull. Bunch of crazy people.
But, it has amazed me, the creativity that runs in that ball, Chicago's own.
Oh, yes.
Scott
He is
chasing.
a mile a minute, and it does not stop.
Yeah, and the two-seater was his idea.
Yeah.
Drawing it up on a napkin in a bar. Strangely enough, they were in a bar,
Yes.
I believe.
And what was funny is I actually worked for IndyCar at the time, and so he brought it to me, and then I had to go sell it to our legal department. That didn't go over well. You want a what? Yeah, no, it took us a while to
Oh, it
to
took
run it
quite a
through.
while.
Oh yeah, it took quite a while to run
And
that
then
through.
when the wing fell off the car that one time, then it
Yeah.
stalled them again
yeah.
for quite a while.
I was actually across the street when that happened. I got into my car so fast, I was in flip-flops, and I was running across the infield of the racetrack in flip-flops, flap, 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 trying to, yeah, it was pretty good. To see if I could beat the attorneys there, it was pretty good. The guy that was in the car loved it.
Yeah,
Thought we did it
oh,
on
he says-
purpose. Loved it. Thought it was
Oh,
the greatest thing ever. When
yeah,
in
he
doubt,
said-
loop a two-seater. It's fun.
He said, that's the greatest
Part of
ride.
the experience,
I
people.
couldn't have done that if you tried it.
Yeah.
He said he loved it. He
Loved
wasn't
it.
scared. Although there was
Crazy.
some evidence he might have been. What does a day other than Sinden wandering around trying to find something to do? He's not good at sweeping floors and dusting and
Mm-hmm.
vacuuming, so he comes in and pesters. What does your daily thing consist of? Your daily.
You know, I'm kind of all over the place. I'll do something as simple as, right now we're working on a whole schedule of show car programming for the Brickyard. So I've got stock cars kind of all over the place right now. I've got simulators all over the place right now. And then it'll be a case of, we'll get a Fortune 500 client call and say, I need a truck conceptualized. We're going to do a 32 state, mobile tour, and I want it with hydraulics, and I want it to do X, Y, and Z, and you need to come up with what it looks like and how to make it happen and how to build it and what the price is, and I need it tomorrow. So that's literally that's a lot of what my day is. So it fluctuates. You've got some actual day-to-day activation and stuff to kind of make the world go round, and then a lot of it is me wandering around scratching my head and trying to think of how I can make something unique, cool, creative, different. Can I put a 10-foot by 10-foot LED wall on top of a truck? Is that feasible?
Yeah.
And
If you got enough screws and bolts.
correct. Lots of hydraulics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and don't let it tip over. That's a big one, just FYI. If you're mounting a very large LED wall on the top of a truck, it tips, just in case you were wondering. So you might want to have some leverage on the backside of the truck, just in case.
Now, does that tell me that in a windstorm you didn't have anything outside and the trailer went boom?
I have no comment.
Okay. Good
No,
idea.
actually, it didn't go over, but we did learn a lesson.
Are you still excited about motorsports? Do you
yeah.
enjoy?
Yeah. I still, like we said, we do a lot within motorsports. We do a lot of mobile hospitality programs. So we do all the logistics and operations and hospitality for Ferrari Challenge. So we're on the road for all those races. Like I said, I work for a lot of racetracks on behalf of IndyCar. And on behalf of those racetracks, producing some of those races, Gateway being one of them. So it's nice to kind of make those rounds. We do a lot on the sports car circuit as well, with a lot of those different clients, Pirelli World Challenge and IMSA as well. So, yeah,
So you stumble into Tom Blattler quite frequently.
I do. Yes, I do. You know what I like about it is I'm very much of a progressive forward thinker. I'm a creative thinker. So it's nice for me to see the evolution. I'm a fan of evolution. I know there's a lot of people out there in this world that are very much of a, we like the good old days. And I was there for some of them, obviously. But it's just been really nice to see how the evolution of things are. I have been to a Formula E race. Really like them.
Well,
Yeah, and it's funny because you get there and you think, oh, there's no noise, but there is noise. You get to hear them downshifting. You get to hear the tires squeal. You get to hear if they miss a shift. So there's a lot of things that you can't hear at an IndyCar race that you can hear at a Formula E race, which is a different perspective. So the whole one-day event concept is really cool, and it really attracts a lot of the younger crowd. So it's kind of interesting to see a lot of the younger crowd come in. So they've got a great concept in it. It's not going to appeal to everybody. I get that completely. But for me, with the way, with the way my brain works, I like to watch evolution. I like to see kind of what's happening in the market and how we're attracting the younger generation that's not really focused on car culture, and how we can get people excited back into racing. So that's kind of where where my enthusiasm comes from.
I got to ask you, as a spectator at a Formula E, and you said you can hear this, that, and the other thing. You can hear them when they miss shift.
Mm-hmm.
Do you also hear, oh, crap?
You don't hear the oh crap, that's in the helmet, so it's a little muffled.
Okay.
I'm sure it's there. That and the crazy fans. Those fans are diehard. I mean, they are all like tricked out on all their colors. It's like going to a soccer match. I mean, it's crazy. They can hear themselves scream, so they try to out scream each other in all the corners, which is very entertaining. So you have a whole bunch of like, loony people like out screaming themselves. So, but yeah, no, it's unique. It's cool. I would recommend it if you've never been to one and you have the opportunity. I would recommend it. It's different.
And all the cars, if I'm not mistaken, are owned by one person, at least initially. Owned all the cars or owns all the cars. So Mr. Penske has 2 cars he didn't have to pay for. And Dragon Racing, why
It's
he
a
left IndyCars.
good gig if you can get it.
Yeah, so he's got 2 cars. And
Yeah.
as I was just mentioning with Spike, that next year McLaren says they have a battery that
Yeah.
will run the whole race.
Not surprising.
So now that it can put 2 drivers
Yeah.
in cars instead of just 1 in 2 cars.
I'll be curious to see when Robo Race comes out. Does anybody know about Robo Race? So they're adding that as a precursor to the event. It's called Robo Race, and it's going to be race cars that are engineered to be autonomous. And by autonomous, I mean like once they turn the cars loose and the green flag drops, everybody steps back. They literally will drive themselves. There's nobody autopiloting them. The cars are actually have enough quote unquote AI in them that they can actually drive themselves. So that'll be some good comedy to watch.
Where is that going to be?
They said it was going to be this year, but obviously
Where?
it hasn't happened yet. So it'll be in conjunction with all the Formula E races. It'll be the warm-up race.
Oh.
Yeah,
I see. Well, they do have fences and guardrails, so.
they do, and lots of whistles. Because you can't hear them when they come in the pits, so all the officials have whistles. So it's literally like being in Gasoline Alley, only like 5 times louder and about 16 more whistles. Your brain starts to melt after about 5 minutes in pit lane. Yeah.
Do you think that'll ever appear at the Speedway?
Probably. I would. I never say never. I'm one of those people that never say never. But I
Gene
can
said
imagine.
no, so that's enough for
Yeah,
me.
but I'm pretty sure it's a no. But
Yeah,
yeah.
he did. Oh, well. Did you ever dream when you first asked, what's that funny wingy thing and the driver thing? And did you ever
since I'm still
envision?
never going to live it down.
Did you ever envision being here? That
Oh,
you're
not in a million
progressed
years.
To this?
No, and when I started, it was rare for a woman to be in a broadcast production position, so that was strange enough to begin with. And then when I converted into the PR side of life, and that was just kind of a natural facet of evolution for working for Paul Page, because I was constantly managing his requests and appearance and things. I was still very much the minority. So, to be honest with you, I don't think back then, I ever really thought that, a female role was really going to catch on that much. It was very much of I don't want to say it was a boys' school, because I was treated very well and everybody was very good to me. It was just, I was a rarity. A little bit of a unicorn wandering around. But it's been really, really, really nice to see how the field has really evened out in motorsports, especially for women, not only just on track, but off track as well, which is really cool. But no, honestly, I wouldn't have calculated that this is where I would be.
You just mentioned it was strange being a female in this. And all the times that I dealt with you over the years, I never thought of it. It never crossed my mind. She's the only one here. I never thought of
Yeah.
it. I asked a question, you said, yeah, we can do this or that, or
Yeah.
2 weeks from now, Fred, when he comes back from his vacation, we'll talk to him.
Secretly, we rule the world.
Yeah,
Women do.
you're not whistling Dixie there.
We do.
That's what Kenny and I were discussing just earlier.
Yeah.
We're in the back end looking out.
Yeah. Except on my end, I tend to make a lot of messes along the way. I'm kind of a messy person. But
It's kind of strange. I didn't realize that you were involved with IndyCar at events, because that's what you did when you left there.
I do. I
And
still
they
do.
said sour noodles. Now somebody woke up and said, she was pretty good at that. We got to bring her back.
No, I love doing it. It's so much fun. And it's nice, did anybody go to Barber this year? Yeah, that's such a beautiful track. And those people, they do golf for the most part for a living, which is why the racetrack looks the way it does. But, man, they have a whole different perspective on how to produce an IndyCar race, which is awesome. Sometimes you're not only in the forest, you are a tree. So it's really nice to kind of see how everybody else does it and a different perspective on how to execute it and what makes the most sense. So I love working with those people because they have a very unique approach to, what your customers' experience is, what the fans' experience is at the racetrack, and hands down, they do an absolute brilliant job. And Gateway's in the same boat. They're very, very fan-focused on making sure that when you're there, you have an amazing experience from start to finish. Everything, even from the bus trips, making sure that you're entertained from start to finish and you have the access you need, and right down to adding tiny houses. Is somebody doing a tiny house? Because I totally want to mooch in with you if you're doing a tiny house. I'm going to visit. I'm hoping you're cooking. Dang Out of luck.
Well, I don't know. There's so much involved that people, when they buy a ticket, they go sit in the grandstand. They don't realize everything that goes on behind to make it so when they sit there, they say, boy, that was fun.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. And I think it's interesting that you are back where you
love it.
were for some time. And they realized maybe that wasn't a good move. But there's new people in, and they said, whoa, Scale can do it.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of it's about listening. Like my question earlier, where do you want to go? A lot of it's just asking with the fans what they want, what you want to see, what makes it more convenient for you to be there, what's more enjoyable for you. What do you really want to see? Do you want more time in the paddock, or do you want more time in the grandstands, or, is the beer as accessible as possible?
Yeah.
It's little things like that, and a lot of these racetracks, they produce so many events a year that they're very good at listening to their fans and paying attention to their fans, and also adapting to the times and adapting to technology. That's another part of it too. Is there's a lot of changes with technology, but IndyCar is a good partner with all of their promoters too, in terms of working with their racetracks to make sure that they're providing the best product possible. And same thing with IMSA and same thing with Pirelli World Challenge to make sure that the fan experience on all sides, is as optimized as possible.
The first time down at Barber, we went to the museum, of course.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
And I said, is Mr. Barber here? Oh, he's always here. That's him over there. So I went over and talked to him. Very nice guy. And he's always around, at least during Indy. I don't know what the rest of the time is. Then we went downstairs. I said, you have a race shop? Yeah, it's downstairs. So we went down. And looked in there, and there's cars. I said, what do you guys do? Well, Mr. Barber likes to drive. He ain't that good at it. He's hit a fence or two on occasion, and we got to fix the cars.
It's hard to find a fence at Barber.
Yeah. But, the neat thing is there's not much grandstand, just the one on the main street by the pit. Everybody else is on the grounds. They're under trees. They're everywhere.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And it's a fabulous place.
It would be probably one of my top three. If I ever had to just could go be a spectator and just sit on my butt, I would totally pick Barber. It's wonderful. And isn't he, Mr. Barber, quiet?
Yes.
He never hears a sound. He just sort of skulks around. It's wonderful. I love him. He's delightful.
And he's taken Mom and Dad's milk business and done pretty well with it.
Yes, he has.
I was told he is the second largest landowner in America. And I said,
incredible.
If he's the second, who the hell's first?
Yeah.
U.S. Steel. Oh, I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Small out. You don't hear much about them, but
Yeah, he's a very interesting man.
Yeah, he is. Very good guy. And very approachable. You would think, he'd be standing. No, not at all. I just want to talk to him. Well, I appreciate you after chasing you around. Not literally, just electronically or
Dang it.
whatever you say. And now I have, I've sent emails to her, and they don't go because
he's killing
I'm
me.
considered spam. Well, I knew that.
Speaking of technology going wrong,
And then I use her old email.
he thinks
and I
I'm
don't-
blocking him. He's got this thing. He thinks I'm blocking him.
Well, that's what I said. I sent her a message. What are you doing? Put me on your spam list?
Texted you back.
I know you. You texted, yes. I got
Busting
a
my
response from
chops.
that.
Come on
I'm
the
not-
show and get busted.
I'm not that big in texting. This is what I do it with.
Oh, that is terrifying.
I know.
No, seriously, hold that back up again. Hold that back up. Wave that for the entire crowd to see. Did you all see this? This is so wrong.
No,
Oh, honey, you're a hot mess.
no.
Can we?
But see, if I
How do you even text on that thing?
very slowly.
Oh God.
But see, when
Oh,
you're
I
out,
can't-
when
yeah.
you're out doing something, and I send you an email that goes beep beep, no matter where you are, and it goes.
Oh,
You know what? I get so many.
Yeah, Rotary,
I
seriously.
get so many emails.
You have Rotary at home, don't you? I know you
yes,
do.
I do. Of course.
Oh.
Yes. But I get 600 to 800 emails a day from series sponsors, teams, drivers I've never heard of. I have no idea who they are. And you think I want them in my pocket?
Oh, you're killing me, Smalls.
So I'll text. I can text, though. It takes me a while, but I can do it.
I have no word. I have no words. I have no words for this.
But you answered me today. I said,
I
you good
did.
to do?
I did.
See?
I responded back to you quite promptly,
Yes,
despite
yes, you
your
did.
archaic use of technology.
But you didn't know that. It just showed up on your screen.
If you look up dinosaur in the dictionary, does your face appear?
It will tomorrow.
Oh, we love you. Come on, give it up for the man. You're the best. We all think you're dreamy.
All right. So I won't. So you don't want me to email you anymore, and you don't want me to invite you back.
Oh, totally not true. You know I will always respond.
Yes, I know you have.
I will be here. Would you say I'm a ray of sunshine for you?
Yes, that's what I said. You are. It's always been a pleasure associating with you and requesting something and you never backed down, you never dodged, you never did anything. If you couldn't do it this week, 2 weeks from now, and it always happened, and I appreciate that because you'd be surprised, probably not, the number of PR people I contact and they don't answer. So I send it again, and they don't answer. So I send it again.
Yeah.
Well, what do you expect? An answer. If you're busy and you can't, just
Yeah.
tell me that. I don't care.
Yep.
But
That's the hard part with modern technology too. You know, it eliminates the personal equation of a lot of
I
it.
don't
you
like
know,
that.
I mean, people feel like they can hide behind an email address. It happens a lot these days. I've noticed.
yeah, but I prefer to talk to somebody. But
I'm
You call their
totally
office.
here for you.
yeah, I know. I haven't been over to your office yet, but I was going to, and they said don't bother because Jeff's up there. I said, oh, okay, I'll leave it
If
alone.
you can get around Jeff, you're golden to visit. You just feel free. Move right in.
Well, I thank you. It's been a pleasure to say I know Ruthie, from the time you appeared here in I don't know 1860. I mean,
Yeah. It feels like it
96, I think it was, or somewhere in there.
somewhere.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming. Glad to see you and bringing Gene with
I
you.
love you for saying that. Can I buy you a beer? Bless you. You are now my hero.
He calls me 3 times a day. Are you watching Fox? No, I'm in a waiting room with Sharon. Why? Trump's on. They're doing this. Okay, I'll get to it. So he spends his life watching television, and I spend my life driving around doing something. I don't know.
Right now he's watching you.
No, he's not. No, he's not. I don't tweet either.
Wise move. Wise move. What's people call it? The tweeter. The tweeters kind of be scary. Yeah, it's. I would advise staying against it, or your entire life will just get sucked down a black hole.
Well, I'm signed in. I have.
Says the
whatever-
PR person. Oops. Yeah.
But I have all of the stuff that I got, so I can read what other people send. I can see that, but I don't respond. All right. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for bringing Gene with you. He's got to take a pill. He's checking his watch.
Got him out of the house.
So, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's still there. It just got there. It's getting cold. They got a nuke. They'll take care of it for you. Thanks for coming.
No, thank you, and thanks everybody for being here. It's always good to see familiar faces. It was lovely to see all of you tonight. Appreciate it.
Ruthie Forbes.
Thank you.
We'll see no more.
Have a good night.
Next week, I am reasonably sure I have, because I've been wanting her. If anybody that follows what happens at Indianapolis Motor Speedway knows that Susie Elliott does what she used to do. And Susie Elliott is going to be here. You'll be amazed at her. Just when the gal hit the golf ball out at the track the other day and Doug was announcing what was going on and Zach Veach was there, Susie was there. She's everywhere. Everything that happens at Speedway, she's involved in. She's supposed to be here, and joining her because she said she wouldn't come alone. I don't know why. Will be Alex Damron, the head of communications for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I'm working on another one. If I can pull it off, you'll be interested in seeing him. So until next week, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Till next week, Don Kay saying good night. Your pizza's getting cold.